Thank you. Good morning, Sydney. Yes, thank you. My name's Sam, and I work for JB Hifi, an organisation I'm sure you're familiar with. Yeah. 12 great years I've spent with JB. It's been a hell of a journey, and I've been on a bit of a journey myself from one side of the country to the other. And today I'd like to share my story with you. So let me start at the beginning, where the origins of my leadership journey. So I was first introduced to the work that Human Synergistics does back in 2009. I was a store manager at the time, a junior store manager. I had about 30 to 40 staff. And it's fair to say I was on a bit of a path to destruction. Why didn't I show you my LSI, my first one? It explains it pretty well. Pretty aggressive, not really delivering the best results. What's worse is what I thought of myself. This is what I thought of myself. What a nutter. And I didn't feel good about this. I was taking the work home angry, and I just thought this is how managers should behave. I was a new young manager, and I just came in with little training and thought, okay, that's the way we're meant to do things. But I clearly needed to rethink my approach. Anyway, I'm from Perth, Western Australia, beautiful Perth Beach here. And from 2009 onwards, I was obsessed with leadership. I was always picking up a new book. I think one of the first books that I picked up was Dan Pink's The Surprising Science of Motivation. Anyone read that? Yeah? Mastery, Autonomy, Purpose. I read that and I thought, amazing. So I was really interested in how to create and nurture intrinsic satisfaction in staff and try to move away from these extrinsic drivers. Anyway, I was promoted in 2013, a few years later, to become a regional manager where you look after, I had 10 stores at the time. So I made the move from this to this. A typical Canberra winter's morning. You imagine my delight when I saw the weather forecast for Sydney this morning. I've just come out of the 7-year winter down there. I didn't take this photo. I just Googled Canberra winter. It was the first thing that came up. And I thought, that's a very good way to describe it. It's actually more like 9 months of the year. Let's give Canberra some justice. Hey, how about a nice pic of Canberra? Look, that looks like somewhere you might like to visit. So I took over a successful team. No doubt about it. They were a successful team. They were a high-achieving team. They were very compliant, very structured, very good at KPI attainment. But the form of motivation was different to what I was used to back in Perth. I was from a successful team too back in Perth. But back there, it came from within. We had this intrinsic love for the job. But in Canberra, I was noticing that it was all these extrinsic drivers in order to align the expected outcomes. The carrot and the stick, in essence. So I put together a small cultural survey, an anonymous cultural survey to all the staff. I had about 350 staff, and asked a bunch of questions, and there was some free text fields in there where they could tell me how they're really feeling. And it was pretty confronting. It revealed a few issues in there, and namely broken promises was this reoccurring theme and this lack of trust. And I had a really important choice to make at this moment. Do I click into gear with the way these guys are operating in this extrinsic world, or do I stay the path, stay the journey that I was on? So, carrots. What did I find? So, one of the big carrots was this making promises, and it was promising promotion in order to drive performance was very common. Now, that's very different to a career development plan. I'm an advocate for career development plans, absolutely. I'm an advocate for career development conversations. But promising promotion to drive performance sounds different. What it sounds like, dangling the carrot, if you do this, you're next in line for the big job. If you achieve this KPI, you're next in line for promotion. And this was happening everywhere. And I think it was coming from a place of avoidance with the managers. I don't want to have an honest conversation, an honest career feedback conversation with them, so I'm going to promise them the world in order to get them to work harder for me in the short term. So promotion time would come around. I've got one person to promote. Little did I know that everyone's been promised the job from their manager, so I end up having lots of unhappy people. With promising promotion to drive performance, you have your people focused on this narrow goal of just get a promotion, and that's all there is to it. That should be the be-all and end-all. I wanted to help our people find the satisfaction, the meaning, the purpose in the current role that they're in. On the other hand of carrots, on the other side, sticks. There was a high degree of formal warning documentation in place. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. We have a unsatisfactory performance program with the assistance of our HR department where we document poor performance. And there was a fair bit of this being handed out, and I really wanted to steer away from using it as the sole driver to align expected outcomes. Absolutely, if we needed to use it, absolutely. It was there, but let's not be handing them out all the time. It wasn't that easy though. You see, it's actually easy to hand out warnings. It takes longer to have a critical conversation. It takes longer to find a win-win outcome. It's easy to say, sign this, don't do it again. So in 2012, 120 of these documents had been handed out to staff. That's quite a lot, you know, just over 300 staff. 120 was quite a lot. Remember that number, I'll come back to it. Popular. I thought I was going to be liked. How naive. I thought they would love me. I'm coming riding in on horseback. I'll save you. No more warnings. Autonomy for all. Turns out I was very unpopular. And I made two really big mistakes. I took away the two tools in use, the carrot and the stick. I said, stop promising promotion to drive performance and stop handing out all these warnings. And they looked at me like I'm crazy. What do you mean? Now no one's going to do any work for us. So they were pretty angry at me. And then the results were going backwards, and I was angry at them. I really could have slipped back to that 2009 version of me at this point. In fact, for a while there, I did. I just thought that they would thrive and jump on this vision, but it just wasn't that easy. I was trying to grow some ownership by allowing a greater degree of autonomy. But managers actually wanted specific instructions on the job. You see, with autonomy, there's a risk. There's a risk you could do the wrong thing, and they didn't want that. It's not easy to like your team when they're in a place like that. But you must look beyond the individual and ask, what is really going on here? Don't be shaken by being unpopular. My belief is that people are fundamentally good and that there's something else at play here. So we took them on the LSI journey. This is their first measurement of 10 store managers at the time. I had 10 stores. And as you can see, primarily competitive, 87%, perfectionism very high, power very high, really everything really out in that aggressive styles. So we had to take them on a bit of a journey and help them find their why. So we ran a series of workshops. We called them Leading with Purpose. And it was all about giving them new tools, new ways on how to motivate their people, and new tools on how to motivate themselves, find some intrinsic satisfaction and purpose for them in their role. And then we had to change the environment. So back in store land, we had to look and try to discover some magic. And once we did that, I started to notice the magic in the people coming out. There is something there in the culture that's limiting their potential. Let me show you an LSI of one of my store managers in 2014. This is his LSI. As you can see, quite passive, defensive coming out there. In a small format store, not performing particularly well, disrespected by his peers, not loving life. And in just 1 year, this was his transformation. He now runs one of the busiest stores in all of JB Hifi. In fact, in the last 12 months, that store has gone from the 10th most profitable store in the company to the 6th most profitable store in the company, in just 12 months. which is an amazing leap forward and a huge credit to the leadership that he's providing the team. You can't truly be great living in fear. You just can't do your best work. Anyway, so once they started to succeed in this autonomous environment, their responsibility grew, their responsibility to their people grew, and true ownership flourished. So let's look at that LSI again. That was the 2014 one, primarily competitive, and in just 1 year, this was our transformation. Achievement at 75% in humanistic. We've still got a bit of work to do with our competitive. Pretty powerful stuff. Back to me. Before I could work on this team, I had to work on myself. I needed to get away from being this guy. And I needed to keep challenging myself to become a better leader. And over the next few years, and in fact, this finishes with my 2017 feedback, I needed to become a more constructive leader. And this is who it's all for. This is for the people. These are our people. So, a couple of key things that I've learnt on the journey. The first one is to allow autonomy and empower your people to make decisions. It builds ownership and responsibility. It just takes time, particularly if the culture is against you. I try to connect business goals to a purpose, to a bit of a moral compass. I talk about having highly engaged, happy staff who are passionate in their pursuit of creating great customer experiences and providing great customer solutions. It feels good to make others happy. It should feel good to provide our customers with great technology and great entertainment. We instill that thrill. We have a saying at JB Hifi, it's called creating raving fans. Use a cultural survey to diagnose and find out what's really going on. For yourself, you will need a buddy or a mentor. You will need to vent. They must feel safe. This doesn't slip into avoidance, but we don't loom or threaten expulsion from the tribe. And most importantly, you have to navigate this process. My results went backwards before they went forwards. There was this groaning process in the culture that I needed to navigate through. So, what's the impact been? That all sounds very nice, or lots of nice things to do, but what's now on paper? What has the impact been to the business? Well, I've got a few cool things to show you. The first one is the percentage of employees terminated within probation. We have a probationary period, like many organisations do. It's a 3-month probationary period. And in 2012, 22% of new hires didn't make it past 3 months of employment. In 2013, 25% of new hires didn't make it past 3 months employment. 1 in 4 people not making it past 3 months employment. This is just within my area. You see, at JB, for a lot of our staff, it's their first or second job. We have an obligation to ensure that we're welcoming them into the workforce, and I don't think we were doing a very good job of it. The following year, it dropped to 13% after we started to implement all these elements of constructive leadership. The following year, it was down to 2%, and last year it was down at 1%, 25% to 1. Thank you. Thank you. Back to sticks. How many were handed out in 2012? 120, quite a lot. By 2016, we'd halved that number to 60. And the first half of this year sits at just 12. It's not because we're avoiding issues of unsatisfactory performance, we just have less of it. And we have new tools, new ways on how to handle the issues. We're better at our conversations. I asked the staff this question in the cultural survey in 2015 and then in 2017. I would stay at JB tomorrow if someone offered me another job with equal pay. We've had a 30% increase in the strength of that score. That score now sits at 4.8 out of 5, 5 being strongly agree, which is huge. Our team's very happy and healthy. Our sick leave is some of the lowest in the company. Some of the lowest across Australia. Perth is the lowest. Sales and profit. Kind of important this works. We've had a 59% increase in bottom line earnings between FY14 and FY17. across 8 stores. Pretty powerful. Thank you. Thank you. And finally, this is something that I'm most proud of. What we give back to the community. We have a charity program at JB. Staff are allowed to donate a portion of their pay each week, and then JB Hifi will match that dollar for dollar. We've raised millions for charities such as Médecins Sans Frontières, Oxfam, Reach Out, Fred Hollows Foundation, Sunrise Children's Villages in Cambodia, Animal Wildlife Fund, and many more. In 2013, 37% of my staff donated a portion of their pay to charity each week. And just a few weeks ago, actually, this just ticked over, it's now every single one of them. Thank you. This is a great example of a proud culture and a culture that wants to give something back to their wider community. And the stores really celebrate this, that everybody is part of this great cause. The one thing I wish everyone knew about culture: you must stay true to your purpose. Be unwavering in your commitment. The tide will turn. They will adapt to these philosophies. It just takes time. Your resiliency is the key. Stay the course. I'm 4 years in, and I'm still not done. I've got plenty of work to do. As future leaders, we are responsible for creating the thriving, engaging workplaces of the future. We have an obligation that we are providing our people with skills to go on to do great things in life. We have an obligation to keep them safe. We can make our organisations absolutely great places to work. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me this morning. Thank you. Thank you.